Ronaldo's come in and he's going to score you goals left, right, and centre. That's what he'll do if you give him service. But since Ronaldo has come in, Manchester United are, one, either looking to just feed him, or two, everything is sort of breaking down in the final third. Now, let's talk about that a little bit, because United have got one of the best goal scorers in the world, one of the greatest players of all time in their team. Why is it that the attack's actually looking more one-dimensional than it did when he wasn't here last season?
You have to ask Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that. So, like you just talked there about Mason, have we not spent years telling Mason Greenwood to get the ball in and around the box and shoot? Is that not what we've developed? Is that not the character that we've put in there to say, Mason, if you miss, doesn't matter because you're so good, you'll hit the target? Now, Mason had the best chances yesterday, there's no doubt about it. And there was one point where he should have passed the ball to Bruno, who was on the left. But if I'm Mason Greenwood, I'm shooting. That's it. That's his job. His job is to score goals. His job is also to be part of the attack in a rounded sense. But this is why we are now asking these questions of Ole, because Ole's got to find a system in that front four that works for everyone. And that isn't happening. It's like we've got 4 individual ballers in an NBA team, yeah, and like a little bit of defense behind it. Or, you've got McFred and McTominay running around trying to win back the ball for these 4 at the top. And then when they get the ball, there's no chemistry there. So you have to ask yourself, well, what are they doing in training? So it's not very difficult if you're Mason Greenwood or Paul Pogba to look up and see the greatest goal scorer of all time in front of you and think, I'm going to pass him the ball. But none of that is really happening. United are looking for Ronaldo without looking for Ronaldo. And that is a problem because it creates a disconnect. So those 3 behind, and I think that Bruno's a big part of this. Bruno's playing more as a number 10. He's kind of slipping into number 8 roles at times. So the 4-2-3-1 there that we talk about all the time. United are trying to transition into 4-3-3. You see it. So Bruno will drop into the 8 role. Fred and McTominay will push up quite high. The defense will then push up behind them, so it's more compact. And then it's essentially 4-3-3. And United do that, stylistically every 10 minutes in a match. Yeah, it's something that they're clearly practicing. But you know what, Haider? It isn't working. It's not working anywhere near like it should. It isn't ticking. So like you just said there about Ronaldo, how do you get the most out of Ronaldo? Well, what you do is you get him one-on-one opportunities in the box. That's what you do. The 3 behind him, Pogba, Fernandes and Greenwood, almost need to be faux number 10s, all 3 of them. They need to come narrow and play balls through the channel, 2 feet in front of Ronaldo, so Ronaldo can take 1 touch and pop it. And if he gets 1 touch in the box, he's probably going to hit the target. We know this. But what is Ole telling these boys?
But Rob,
because it's so mixed up.
Interject, because you've said you're bang on with that when you're playing with Ronaldo up top. But you've said earlier on that we've asked Mason to get his head up and shoot when he gets the ball in good areas. But this is where it's a coaching point, Rob, because he's obviously been told to do that, hasn't he, for the last year or so, and now you're telling him to pass it to Ronaldo. So what is going on? This is a coaching point because it's breaking down.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to bring up something because I hate this word, patterns of play, and all the vibes and all this rubbish that you see on Twitter. But because most of the time people don't understand what patterns of play is. United have got a system, the 4-2-3-1, and they have a way that they want to play. But when it does come to the final third, Rob, right now as it stands, we are playing on instinct rather than we're playing on, right, this is how we've been coached to play in the final third. And a lot of that has come because Ronaldo's coming. I'm not blaming Ronaldo because Ole has to find a way to get the most out of Ronaldo. And right now, as it stands, we're not doing that.
No, we're not. And I think when you talk about Mason, how long have we been telling Mason Greenwood to shoot? Since he was 12. Not last year, not in the last 2 years. Since he was 12, we've been developing this boy to be a striker or to be a wide forward that scores goals and gets the ball in the correct areas in the channel, because that is what modern football is about. So I don't blame Mason at all yesterday for taking those chances, because do you know what? If he hits every one of them right, he gets a hat-trick yesterday. And we're sat here today talking about how Mason Greenwood saved Manchester United against a very average Aston Villa team at home when he's got Ronaldo and Pogba and Fernandes next to him. We're talking about Mason. So I've got no issues with Mason Greenwood. I think Mason Greenwood should carry on doing what he's doing. There should be a time now and then that he should pass the ball more. But do you know what, Haider? It's almost like Manchester United need a £75 million creator on the right-hand side, doesn't it? It feels like that, doesn't it? So what's going on there?
Yeah.
So this is the issue. Sorry.
Yeah. What I said yesterday was that yesterday was crying out for someone like Jadon Sancho. United needed someone who could unlock defense, someone that had good ball retention in the final third. And one puzzling thing for me was that we didn't have someone that could do that. We had Mason on the pitch, we had Ronaldo, and we brought Cavani on. And that was,
Yeah.
for me, that was puzzling. That was so puzzling because you brought on a striker that can put the ball into net with Cavani, but who was gonna feed him? And that's what I found a bit puzzling. I mean, there's a question here, Rob. I just want to bring it up, saying, Paul Ince is saying we don't have patterns of play. Is that an agenda or is that correct?
We have a very rigid pattern play. So 4-2-3-1, as I've just explained there, stylistically, it's what Ole likes to do. But this season, certainly with the players that we've brought in, they are going into a more of a 4-3-3 shape on the front foot. So it's not a case of United starting with the 4-3-3 in a way that, say, Liverpool would, going back over the last few years, but they are transitioning. So it's protecting the back four with Fred and McTominay. It's part of their job. And then it's getting that ball, that 5 or 10 yard ball, into Fernandes, and then Fernandes turning and finding one of those three in front of him. So that becomes the 4-3-3 shape. So it's not a rigid pattern, but you can see it is not well coached. This is the issue. So if Bruno Fernandes is dropping into the pocket and turning and then seeing Ronaldo in front of him, what can Bruno Fernandes do? He's got to play a Hollywood ball. He's got to play a perfect 30-yard ball through the channel to allow Ronaldo to run. Now, that can happen. Bruno can do that. But as I explained in last week's masterclass, when you just resort to the Hollywood style of football, it only works once or twice out of 10. So yesterday, United did it 10 times. It didn't work once. 0. And that's what can happen. So United need to play some more simple football. So you need that if Fernandes is dropping deeper, you need to see that Pogba drops with him and then actually play, say, 1-2 to get up the pitch, to get closer to Ronaldo. Or you need to see that that Greenwood comes a little bit more narrow and that you have Wan-Bissaka overlapping, which then pulls the defence apart. And then you've got more holes to work around. So United are not doing any of these things. They're it's all like you just said there about the whole vibes thing that people on Twitter go on about. And it is trying to execute tactics through hot air. That's all it is. It's like we have an idea of what we want to do. We just don't really know how we're going to do it. And you see this. I watched Liverpool yesterday at Brentford, and after the game, after obviously getting back from Old Trafford, and even though that game was 3-3 and Brentford had chances to win it, Liverpool looked sensational with the ball at their feet. Yeah. And that was a game that they conceded 3 goals against. 3 goals against a Brentford side. Man United have got nowhere near that level of play yet that I've seen out of Liverpool at their best this season and Man City at their best. So that worries me.
Well, to an extent.
Yeah, so Chelsea lose yesterday, right? They lose 1-0 at home, yeah, to a very good City team. But you lose that game. That obviously claws back the points totals that you want. But you look at Man United, and it's literally been 8 games and 7 games of consistent problems of the same problem. So it's not like a different problem every week, Haider. It is the same problem. So how do you solve that? Well, you could solve that in that game yesterday by not bringing on Cavani with 9 minutes to go when you're not creating anything. You could sit Cavani on his backside and you could say to Jadon, I need you to go and win me the game. You can say to Jesse Lingard, you're on form, go and win me the game. You could say to Donny van der Beek, do you know what, boy, you've sat on your backside long enough, go and win me the game. So these are all things that Ole can decide, but he's opting not to do it. So when we talk about in-game management, yeah, of course.
Because you brought up a really good point there, and it's made me think that with Ronaldo, right? So you brought in Cristiano Ronaldo, a huge character, Rob, someone that will want to play every single game.
Yeah.
There are going to be opportunities and times, Rob, where actually taking Ronaldo off is more beneficial for the team. Maybe you want a bit more. You maybe want, for example, you want Cavani up there, who's going to be a bit more traditional and play off the last man. Maybe you want Martial in there. I'm just throwing names in there. That who will be a bit more sort of busy and maybe move around a bit more. United have options. Is there a fear that, Ronaldo is going to play every single week, that Ollie's going to think, maybe I'm not going to take him off, even if it's for the benefit of the team in that specific game or scenario?
Yes, and this is why I said when we signed Ronaldo, it wasn't a negative, but I said, if you sign Cristiano Ronaldo, it doesn't fix all the other bits that you're not doing particularly well before. So United come second in the league last year. What are you looking for? You're looking for a goal scorer that gets you more goals. But you have to fix the creation issue. So what do? You buy Jadon Sancho. So that's a good start. There you go. You get Jesse Lingard back from West Ham. That's another good start. You've got Donny van der Beek. You put him in the gym for 2 months and you say, Donny, get better. So these things are all good. What I will say is this. I don't think Ronaldo played badly yesterday. But if Martial hadn't put that performance in, he would have got pulled after an hour. So the logic tells you that if you want to pull your striker because you need something up there, it should have been Ronaldo off yesterday and Cavani on in that moment. Now, Ole only had one substitute because obviously the injuries. So you can kind of take that as a reason to why he didn't make more changes.
Yeah, that needs to be taken into consideration.
It does, but we are seeing that Ole's in-game management overall has not been good. So when you're trying to win a game against a low block Aston Villa team who are pretty average themselves, but probably did have the best chances, and they had the best chances because of Manchester United's play, not because of Aston Villa's play. If you're trying to win that game, I don't think the cleverest thing is to bring on Cavani, who's not played a minute yet this season, with 9 minutes to go. I think that ends up being almost like a populist choice. It's like saying to the fans, I'm going to give you what you want. You got Cavani on the pitch, you got Ronaldo on the pitch, you got Bruno on the pitch. When those 9 minutes, United looked as useless as they had done in the other 81. It would have probably made more sense to me with 20 minutes to go to say, right, I'm going to turn the screw on this Aston Villa team. And Jesse's been playing well. I'm going to bring him into one of the wide positions. Do you know what, Mason? You've run your course today. Maybe you're coming off now. You've had your 70 minutes. Come on. And do you know what? I bought this lad from Borussia Dortmund who's pretty good. So I need to give him a little bit of a go. So if I want to create things for my star striker, the greatest striker of all time, then maybe I should put some creativity on the pitch. So these are Ole's. So this is on Ole. This is why we talk about Ole. And you might have like Ole in people being upset about talking about Ole. And then on the flip side, you've got Ole out people who can't, Ole can never do any good. So when Ole makes a really good decision, it's just the same that he's not Klopp, he's not Guardiola, he's not anyone else. The fact of the matter is that in these 8 games and the 7 performances that have been below par, except for obviously the one at Leeds, there are tactical problems that are unfolding game by game by game. As you noted, I got a lot of kind of blowback from the Newcastle match where we won that game 4-1. I was at the game. But from what I saw, it felt wrong that tactically there were things not happening. Players were not doing basics and they were kind of losing the ball in strange areas. I often talk tactically about where a player starts on a football pitch. So which part, where does he want to receive the ball? Does he want to receive it 20 yards forward where he can affect play? Or is he just comfortable coming back for it, with his back to goal and try and playing the short pass? And at Manchester United at the moment, there are way too many players who are happy to do that, play the easy ball backwards, but they're not playing the simple ball forwards. So that has to sit on the manager's lap. It has to say to Ole, why is that? Ole's quite quick at saying in press conferences, I will not discuss my tactics. And that's fine. Last week, he had 1 or 2 journalists question him and he got kind of fronted up to it. And he kind of said, I don't want to answer those. I don't need to answer them. The issue is that if you're playing this poorly, journalists are going to ask you hard questions. If you're playing well, journalists won't ask you those questions. So at the moment, we're putting that to Ole because we have to see progression when you've spent £410 million.